Howdy, everybody. My name is DJ Mel.
This is DJ Honeycomb.
And you are listening to The Sound of First, coming to you from the beautiful podcast studio here at Waterloo Records, here in Austin, Texas. Rachel, what's going on?
Well, I just got back from France, and that was incredible. And I had to ask myself, do I really want to get on British Airways and go back to America?
Did you bring me back a baguette?
I ate a lot of them. I had cappuccinos all day. I had croissants all day. I never got any stomach aches. I never had any hangovers.
You are lucky.
I could breathe through both nostrils. Here in Austin, it's one nostril at a time because the allergies are so bad.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I'm glad you got to go. I mean, I've been there, and when I've been there, it's been an incredible experience.
Yeah. I mean, there's something really seductive about an old city. And you could just feel the layers of history just all around you.
Yeah.
And I was looking at the Seine and I was just kind of like, I guess you can swim in this again. But all the taxi drivers said, no, you can't.
Yeah, I've seen videos of guys that, I don't know what they call them, but guys that have these massive magnets connected to like either rope or a chain, and they'll throw it into that river, and they'll pull up bikes and
bodies.
Things that are made out of metal. Maybe if they have a metal plate in the head, but mostly like tools and random things made out of metal.
People
bicycles, what have you.
That's what the taxi drivers were saying. They were saying a whole bunch of junk is thrown in there, a whole bunch of biological stuff is thrown in there. But I have to say, Paris, and just because I was also in Cognac, I never saw a plastic bag anywhere, even hooked on some tree on the train. Like if I'm driving to Cuero where my mother-in-law lives, I'm seeing plastic bags all over the place, hooked onto barbed wire fences. It's really depressing.
There's no regulation for that.
No,
here.
over there, it's like, I think you have to buy a plastic bag. So it was very clean to the point of saying, yes, you can swim in the Seine. And I'm just like, interesting. But it was just a wonderland. And I just got the tip of the iceberg of just looking at places. I walked into the Louvre without any reservation, and I'm like, let's book it to Mona Lisa. And they make you work for it. You're like another corridor, now turn here. And I'm like, where's Mona Lisa?
Yeah.
And we finally got there, and I'm like, cool. She's like this big.
She's much smaller than you think.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was great. Yeah.
Yeah. So musically, didn't you go to a record store there?
So my first stop was at, I call it the swap meet because I grew up going to swap meets. They call it, what's the other word for it? Anyway.
Like a record swap or?
No, it's just a swap meet. Everybody has like their like shotgun shape space, and they sell everything from army clothes.
Kind of like an open market.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, there's another word for it. But it's called Vinyl Shop. The handle is vinyls_shop. And it's this couple, I'm not sure if they're married, but they have curated the best selection of music leaning more toward 80s R&B. And I think that's really fascinating. Just like you could pick any genre, and it's mostly that. And so I bought some records. I'm going to show it later today.
Okay. I'm glad you bought some stuff.
Yeah. And when you want to listen to a record, they put it on the turntable, and they play it on the speakers, and whoever is in the shop gets to listen to what you want to hear. And so the one that I had her put on was a breakdancing kind of track, which I've never heard before, but so it kind of cracked people up. And she likes to film everybody kind of getting down. So if you ever go to that handle on Instagram, everybody's just kind of boogieing in the aisles. And I think that's such a great marketing thing because it's organic. It's nothing scripted. And you could tell the other folks that have spots in the swap meet, they come over and they're like, oh, I love this jam. We'll dance on the street. And it's amazing. Very friendly, very hospitable. The way I think a record experience, buying records experience should be, it should be, who is the purveyor, who curates this section of records. I had asked, if they have this record or that record, and half the time they did. And so that was very impressive because I think the space is no more than 300 square feet.
Oh, that's a lot bigger than I thought it was going to be.
But it is shotgun. It's like shoebox style.
Okay.
It's deep. And when we told our Uber driver, drop us off at this location. When we got there, he's like, "Are you sure you want to be dropped off here?" Because on the outskirts, it was the only time I saw homeless people having their own swap meet with their own things to trade.
Right.
And it just looked trashy. And the swap meet is called Malik Market. Of course, I might be butchering the pronunciation. And it's all graffitied. And then you go inside and you're like, oh, this is where everybody is. Most of the hours are Friday through Sunday. So we were there Friday. More shops open on Saturday. And there's a cafe. It's on the outskirts of central Paris. So I would say that would be like where Reagan High School is.
Yeah.
Compared to all of central Austin. But yeah, and my husband's just like, that was my favorite place. And I'm like, I'm glad that you're not a tourist trap kind of guy, but I have to go see some of the tourist trap stuff. And he was fine with that. But he's like, I wish we could just stay at the swap meet and just look at more stuff. And I'm like, we only have one day. So
I'm sure.
It was great. And I would go back there, and I would recommend anybody going to Paris to check out Vinyl Shop. It's pretty incredible. And you get to listen to whatever you want. And there's no like pushiness at all about selling anything. So
That's the way it should be.
I know. Should be organic. Your musical adventure and journey should be organic, shouldn't be anything like pushed on you. And for you to be able to listen to it really kind of illuminates more of how you're going to buy stuff. And I had to put some stuff down because I'm like, I don't want to have to carry all this throughout the rest of the day because we had like 12 more hours to go. So
Yeah. That's the thing about traveling and buying records.
I know.
A lot of times, of course, for me domestically, right? Being in another city and you're starting your day and your first stop is a record store and your eyes are really big and you just want to buy everything on the shelves and you're just you're just kind of beguiled by this like beautiful store and then you just see everything and you just want to buy
all of it.
All of it. And then when you do, and I've done this before, like going to Amoeba Records or whatever in Los Angeles. What am I? Okay. I can't go back to the hotel. Like I have to lug all this for the rest of the day.
Yes.
But now, I learned the hard way. So now I'm very mindful. Okay. I'm okay buying maybe 2 or 3 records and then that's it. But as far as like buying a big stack to DJ with, no, don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah.
Please.
Yeah. And you don't know like if it's going to get dirty or rained on. Luckily we had great weather in France. It usually rains. But it never rained. And I was there for a week, so most of the time I was in Cognac, but I had 2 days in Paris, so I kind of had to rush to a bunch of stuff I wanted to see. When you have a bunch of records with you and you put them down, like it could get rained on, someone can step on them accidentally, they can fall down, and all the records there were open. So, do you remember the old record store clerk trick with opening up records against your jeans?
Yeah, we used to do that. Yeah.
But they were all open. So, they could easily fall out if you didn't place them incorrectly shopping. So, so I didn't have to do that. I think he does. I think the owners do that. But yeah, that came to mind. Like when I got back into the States, I'm like, I remember this. We would go like this back and forth. I don't know if you guys remember doing that or do that, but you have to make sure that you don't do it on your favorite pair of pants.
Yeah. We used to do that with CDs. Well, not necessarily with the CDs, but with the CDs, we would just the edge of the counter here at the store.
That's right.
Just to get rid of the shrink wrap. Never disrupt or mess up the seal at the very top. So you would pick up the hinge and then not to disturb that seal and then take the CD out for someone to listen to. Yeah.
Yeah. Kind of open up wonky.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that. All the listening stations that we had and people listening to music all day.
Yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I went to Dallas this past weekend and I went to Josie Records. That was probably the only record store that I went to.
How was it?
It was cool. It's a big store. Okay. It's big. And we've talked about the store a number of times on this podcast. And, the guys who own the store bought, a bill of Bill's records, like his inventory in his warehouse and everything. And so now they're selling all of his stuff. And if you're familiar with Bill's, and we've talked about this many times on this podcast, that Bill had everything. He didn't throw away anything. Not necessarily a hoarder. He just didn't get rid of anything, and he had everything.
Yeah.
And, and you could see that in the store.
Yeah.
It was really, really cool. It's either I walk in there and buy a ton of stuff, or I don't walk, or I walk out with nothing.
Exactly.
And the reason being is because it's so overwhelming. And while I was walking around checking out everything, this guy walks up to me. He's like, "Yeah, you're Mel, right?" I'm like, "Yeah, like Austin, right?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he said, "Hey, I'm Luke." And I'm like, "Oh, snap. Luke Sardello, who's one of the owners of Josie Records." And
Oh, cool.
I totally forgot that he owned the store, but Luke Sardello was a big, and I think he still is. I think he still DJs, but back in the 90s, early 2000s, he was a big house DJ in Dallas. For those of you that do not know, Dallas is a big house music town. It's always been that way.
I didn't know that actually. Is it because of the club, that famous club at one point, or no?
I just think it's always been a big house town with Rob Vaughn, the Daisy Hayes guys, Clay, and everybody. Just Luke Sardello. I mean, Red Eye. There's a bunch of house DJs that I know that I'm gonna miss, but it's always been that way. So
yeah, okay.
So I got to talk to him, and I was asking him how the store did, and this they had Record Store Day was just recently. He told me that their Record Store Day was the biggest they ever had, which was interesting.
That's a good sign.
And then he was telling me about his kid, who's I think a teenager now, and he was telling me how she's really interested in the CDs, how she's interested in lo-fi. Digital cameras from the late 90s, early 2000s.
Oh my gosh.
So they're all into these tactile kind of lo-fi kind of things that we experience, but they, like, for the most part since then, people haven't really been into. So you have all these younger people that are really into records and CDs and things that you can hold and touch. So that was really interesting. But yeah, I walked around the store for a while and checked everything out, and it was just overwhelming. I was so overwhelmed. Posters, CDs, just everything. I mean, I asked Luke about this one particular spoken word record that I've been looking for, and they didn't have it because it's kind of hard to find.
Okay.
But I was with my buddy, and I basically didn't walk out. I walked out of the store with nothing.
Yeah, it's either or, right?
Yeah. So
I'm trying to find that middle ground. I guess I sort of did in Paris, but man, I think there was probably 7 more albums I could have bought.
Sure.
And I got a poster, and so I'm just like, but there's a trend happening, at least in Austin, where they're having listening businesses. So one is like a place where you go and you sit and someone plays records, and you have a whole wall of records.
Yeah, it's a hi-fi bar.
So you know what I'm talking about? And so they buy a drink, I guess, and they hang out and hopefully talk to each other, maybe. I don't know. And it's like more of a chill thing. And the silver lining of what I like to see is that people are listening to records and being introduced to the world of records. My earliest memory of music was holding a record in my hand as a child. So that's a good influence. I have some criticism with that, but I'm not going to get into that. I feel like keeping music and listening as organic as possible is I think the best thing to do. And if that's your introduction, I'm fully support that.
Yeah. Well, I believe, or I think that, regardless of the hi-fi bar,
sure.
There's one in and there's one in Miami, and I totally forgot the name of it. And a bunch of DJs play there. There's one that just opened in Dallas. We actually drove past it. I didn't know anything about it. And then I talked to a local Dallas DJ on the phone about the whole thing that we talked about before the podcast. And he was telling me about that hi-fi bar in Dallas. And then Peanut Butter Wolf owns one in Los Angeles.
Okay.
And so they're all like curated, right?
Yep.
And very curated well to where it's not, you're getting to, let's use the one in Los Angeles that, Peanut Butter Wolf owns. And, he's a crate digger. He's always been that way. So he's all into just anything obscure, and it's just all heat, no filler. And when you go there, you are probably your knowledge is going to expand.
Yeah, which is fantastic because music is infinity. You can't cover all the artists in one lifetime. And I feel like you could probably be better at describing, and I think it's important for people to know this, curating a musical thing versus a playlist.
Yeah, they're not the same, but they are the same, right? For a lot of people, everyone's streaming, okay? And everyone's creating playlists and everyone's sharing their taste and what they're into at the time or what has influenced them. And that's fine. And so there's the tactile version of that. And those are the hi-fi places, right? When we talked about DJing and how everyone has these like really weird intentions or just these intentions on, with DJing where they're doing it just to play a festival stage and I don't believe that, but I will say this, that I think that people picking up DJing now is an extension of the playlist culture where they want to play music for people and share what they know and what they like. And it's not necessarily I want to DJ because I want to blow up and I want to play XYZ festival or whatever. So it's interesting. I like the fact that there are hi-fi bars and that folks are being exposed to actual records and they're seeing Macintosh gear on the displayed on the shelves and with all the blue lights and all that kind of stuff. And you get to see, typically those places have beautiful wood stained shelves and everything's dark and I'm all about it.
Yeah.
Keep them coming. You know what I mean? I like it. So anyways, a lot of talk about records, right?
Yes.
Which is a perfect segue to our guests, this episode's guests, plural.
Yeah.
And that's Nate and Doug Hanners. Doug Hanners is the founder of the Austin Record Convention, and we've had Nate before, and Nate is Doug's son, who's now running things at the Austin Record Convention, and they are celebrating their 45th anniversary at the end of this month.
Yep,
that's awesome.
That's right.
Make some noise for Doug and Nate.
Woo-hoo!
45 years.
Welcome, guys. Wow.
You know what's hilarious about that? And I maybe mentioned this when you had me on before, but whenever I was growing up and going to the show, like we talked about in the last episode, I've been going since I was a little kid and not always being very helpful, but eventually becoming more and more helpful. Dad would always talk to me about the show and you'd say, well, Nathan, I always thought that I'd be able to leave you this record show to run someday for yourself. But, records are just not going to be around forever. And, because CDs had come out. He's like, yeah, CDs will probably take over. And then it was streaming, it's probably going to have to go away. It'll fade away someday. And, I can't imagine it'll be around. And here we are.
Keeps on rolling.
45 years later.
Yep.
And records are incredibly popular, which is just wild. I know it's probably maybe cliche to say that now.
No. I mean, that's to your benefit, right?
Yeah, but I know everyone talks about the vinyl resurgence and all this, and there's a lot of discussion about it. And I know it's like maybe people are bored by that topic, but it has a bunch of cascading effects, right? And one of them is that this event is still like a viable, interesting, exciting thing. Obviously artists are able to make vinyl now, and then we see things like Third Man Records where there's like a new vinyl plant and all sorts of, just a lot of cool things happening. But we definitely have benefited from that resurgence. But it's just so funny to me because I think back to the early shows and Dad saying stuff like that, like it'll probably have to, that you probably had no idea it would go on this long.
No, I mean, with all the different, formats that were coming out, I didn't know if it would, continue, but I think the tactile experience of holding a record, looking at the cover, listening to it, I think that's going to go on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I specifically think the size is an advantage. I didn't used to, I would never have thought that in the 80s or 90s if you asked me. I'd have been like, oh, everything's too heavy, too big, whatever. But actually, fast forward 45 years and it's like, actually, the fact that it's kind of big is nice. If it was microscopically small or, invisible in the case of streaming or whatever, like you wouldn't have that interaction with it,
Yeah. There's this thing right now with minimalism. I think the way things are now with streaming services and just putting things up in the cloud and not having actual photos, right. Printed up, that you could basically walk in your house and it would be empty. I mean, in this day and age, aside from your bed and your furniture and maybe your kitchen or whatever it may be, it's kind of moving that direction. But there's something to be said about walking to a house and there's records and there's books and CDs and what have you. I was thinking about the days before the vinyl resurgence. You guys were doing well. I mean, I had a table with one of my DJ buddies. I believe it was the summer of 2003, 2004, when you guys were over there on North Lamar at the flea market.
Oh, yeah.
Lamar location.
And I remember it being busy. And this was around
Yeah.
the time everyone was buying CDs at the time. So I just recall it being busy. I know that it's not your favorite spot.
It never stopped. Yeah, he was fine with that. I was the one who was like, I don't like this location. But
Yeah.
I mean, he had to do something. I was in Japan for a while, so the show had to keep going somehow.
Sure.
But
Well, they were rebuilding the Palmer and
Right, the
event
Long Center.
so
Oh,
we
yeah. I totally
had to
forgot
find
about
someplace
that.
to be. But yeah, that wasn't my favorite because it was just so far away. But yeah, it never stopped. I mean, that's what's crazy is that there wasn't like the only year we never had any shows was COVID. So it did maybe get smaller, or what was in the building in terms of inventory changed from CDs. Actually, I was going to ask you, so at the very first show, so the first show, 1981, right, 45 years ago, obviously, was it 100% vinyl? Even then, at the first show, was there like 8 tracks or cassette? Was cassettes even a thing? I don't even remember when cassettes happened. Was it in the late 70s, 80s?
They were around then, but the show was all about records. I don't remember any tapes there. There might have been. I don't think so. It was pretty small compared to what.
Was that the first thing that kind of started to get added to the show? Was cassettes?
You mean
Like as another kind of format for music? Like first, it was presumably the very first show was mostly vinyl or almost all vinyl.
Pretty much, yeah. But then people, like reel to reels, people are interested.
But
in that.
but you saw
8-tracks,
you saw.
cassettes.
Did you see cassettes as a format start to gain popularity? Because I seem to remember when I was the very first shows I remember seeing tables of cassettes.
Yes, there were. Yeah, after the first show, they
Started
they
to
did.
become a
Yeah,
thing.
they started going, and of course CDs came along and all that. But,
Right. Yeah, there's sort of these waves of alternative formats, right? First it was cassettes. Actually, 8 tracks was from the 70s, right? So there's probably some 8 tracks,
Yep.
in the
Yeah,
mix
there's a
too.
big-
And reels were even, but those, for whatever reason, I just when in those very early years, was there a lot of reel to reels? Because I feel like I almost never see that. I mean, I have no memories of people selling reel to reels.
Yeah, they're pretty scarce. You don't see. I don't think they've ever been
super
a
popular.
big part, but they've been there. But
Did they
not-
ever? I mean, I'm going to showcase my ignorance right now for the whole world, but I've never actually seen a reel to reel in like a productized box, like where it has the band, a picture on the front. Did they sell it that way?
Yeah, I've got some.
Where it's the reel to reels in a box with the band on the cover and their name on it. And
Yeah,
all
it
that.
looks like what you would see on an LP, only it's on the reel to reel tape.
I don't think I've ever. If I saw that, I've forgotten all about it.
I think I've seen it maybe once or twice.
Yeah.
I've never seen
in the
reel
past.
to reel.
Yeah.
Never.
But they were expensive, and they were, you had to have all the right equipment. They made it much.
Also very delicate, right? I can't imagine a more
yeah, and they,
delicate, fragile way
Yeah,
to package music.
All it takes is to mishandle it once, and it's just a big mess.
yeah,
Right.
but the
Take
sound
breaks.
quality, if you have the right stuff, it was really good. But it's
Interesting.
there's people that like to collect this and that and the other. And
But in terms of the lifetime of the show, we could probably plot like the rise and fall of cassettes and then CDs and then
Yeah.
streaming, with records kind of being there initially and kind of, I mean, they've never gone away. Obviously, we've always managed to have records, but definitely there were these other things that everyone thought would, to some extent did replace it for a while. I mean, maybe, I guess it's interesting. And I think you showed me this a long time ago, but there is a, you think about how portable cassettes and CDs are, right? You can use them in the car, and that was what everyone did for so long. But I guess back in the day, they tried to solve this, and they had like an in-car record player, right? Like I've seen a couple of these, which sounds ridiculous
Wow.
because it would just skip constantly.
Yeah,
but I
it
actually
just-
saw some Motorola or someone made
yeah,
one.
they made it. It was like an under the dash 45 record player.
Yeah.
It's like a
It would
jukebox
just-
in your
It
dashboard.
would just
Wow.
destroy. I mean, every time you hit a bump, it would just smash the record.
Did you
So-
ever see one of those in real life?
Yes.
Oh my God. What,
Yeah, there's
where
a-
did you see that?
In West Texas, when I was growing up, I had a friend that had one in his car. And
Oh my God.
it just would destroy the
Can
records.
you imagine trying to put a 45 on while you're driving?
No more music.
The number of accidents that would cause would be out of control.
Yeah, they
I don't
weren't
think I could
very.
drop the needle.
They were around, but they didn't last too long because they destroyed the records.
Yeah. And the
Fascinating.
car and the driver.
Well, maybe, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Madness.
But it's the. vagaries of listening to music. You know, there's always been different.
But yeah,
Yeah, there's a famous photo of Muhammad Ali in his car, like in the '60s, where he's handling 45s.
Yeah,
So
he's got
there's
the player.
He has
and
the player in the
he's
car.
putting one in the player.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah, he was the king. So of course he had that back in the day.
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
So regardless of regardless of the format changes and people's listening habits and what have you, the crowd and the folks that attend the Austin Record Convention have always been enthusiastic. The enthusiasm has never gone away. I don't ever recall ever going to a record convention and it being dead.
Mm-mm.
No, it's always been pretty viable. Always.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a real popular thing all over. You know, there's
It's
record
fun.
events all over.
And I told Nate this the last time he was here, and I'll tell you, and I'll say this to you, Doug, that I look forward to every record convention because it's like a social gathering and a reunion for a lot of people, not only for the collectors, but also the buyers, and just seeing friends and family there. It's always this thing that I look forward to. And there's a guy named there's a guy named Bill Bradley that he always has a table there. I think you know who he is. But anyways, I think there's all these other things that are happening outside of the record convention. He has a big get together. I think the night, like Thursday night before before load in, where all the dealers, they all go to his house and they swap records and they all swim in his pool and eat all his food. And
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, it's a thing. Yeah, and I think Nate said that you used to do the same thing as well. So
Well, yeah, way back we had the pre-show thing in our side yard, basically, and it was madness because it was the neighbors got angry and all. It got out of control.
You started letting people drink beer. And
Yeah,
started
well,
getting
people
rowdy.
did all sorts of things that they shouldn't have
But
done.
you never did that. Correct me if I'm wrong. So when you started doing that, you didn't did you do it here in Central Austin? We lived in South Austin.
No, and
It's only when you moved out to Oak Hill.
yeah, when we had space in Oak Hill, we had, we had a food truck, and there was, there's probably 50 dealers out there. It was before you could. It was on the Friday before the Saturday and Sunday.
Oh, we didn't have an early shopper day.
No, there
then.
wasn't early shopper day.
See?
But it was madness. It was just chaos. I mean,
So that was your party at your house was effectively the early shopper day.
yes, and it only lasted a couple of years because the neighbors got really upset.
It got kind of out of hand. I mean, that's the story of the show. Is it just keeps getting out of hand every time you try to, the first one, the Zilker Clubhouse one. I remember you telling me was similar, right? Because that wasn't a very big space,
No,
and it also got out of hand.
It did, and of course everybody smoked then. That's the thing. The smoke was like you had to, cigarette smoke was, and it was
very
packed.
Cheech and Chong, right?
Really packed.
And it was packed because Ed Ward was the writer for the American Statesman, and he gave us a huge plug in the paper, and it just boom. It was
Okay.
Back then, there was no internet. It was everybody read the paper,
Right.
and
So it was. But did they have beer then too?
they did. The Knights of Columbus people got really upset because they didn't realize it was going to be such a big crowd. They sold out of everything, and they were angry. And
They were angry that they sold out.
I know, but
I
they said
don't
we should. They said, well, if we'd have known, we'd have had more supplies. And I said, we didn't know either. And
Yeah, what can you do?
there were so many people. Cars were all over. They were parked out in the park, and park got upset, and
Mayhem.
it was
Wow.
pretty
Total
chaotic.
mayhem.
But it was
Great memories,
It was
though.
great.
Yeah.
John Coots set up there
Mm-hmm.
at the first one. And,
JTK, yeah,
yeah.
very cool.
there's a few left that were vendors
were
at
there.
that show, but
We got Martin Coulter was there.
oh yeah,
He's a Waterloo
Uh-huh.
longtime veteran.
He's a
In fact,
mainstay
I
here.
sent you the picture of him when he was young.
I know. We were just looking at it. Young Barton Coulter.
And Martin Coulter. I don't think he's ever missed a show.
Yeah.
no,
I was hoping he
Wow.
could pop in today and say hi, but I don't think he's here today.
yeah, that's what he said. But yeah, it was. After that, we said, well, we got to go somewhere bigger. So we went to the auditorium downstairs and then worked our way up.
Good old Palmer.
But there were other shows happening in Texas, and that's what inspired us to start it in Austin.
Since we're
because
talking about it, I have a collection of old show posters, and this is
Yeah.
the very first show poster.
That's Dale Wilkins. He
Wilkins
was
did
our
the art.
artist. Yeah, he's no longer with us, but he was.
So that's from the very first show.
very first
Yeah.
show.
Okay, so
Nice.
speaking of the very first show, Doug, kind of let us know about the genesis, just what inspired you to throw this for the first time.
Well, I went to a show in Houston. It was one of the first record shows I ever went to, a Houston show, and I thought, well, it was neat. And I thought, well, we should do it in Austin. Austin is the music capital, so we did. Me, David Shutt, and Steve Waite.
Oh, Steve Waite.
Were the three, and it was very popular. Like I said, it was so crowded when we put it on, and we picked the nights at Columbus Hall because we thought, well, it wouldn't be that big, and it turned out it was way too big and popular. So we moved it to the Palmer Auditorium in the lower level. But it was, inspired by seeing the success of the other shows around the country in Texas that were just starting. Everybody was, used records were really getting popular, and people were looking for a lot of stuff because records would go in and out of print really quickly. So, you want to find something, you have to go find it, not in a store. You'd have to go look for it elsewhere. So and it's just expanded from that. I mean, it was.
Did you have a personal collection that was pretty big at that
at
point?
One time? Well, no. At that time I did, but I divested about 40 years ago. But I mean, people always say, well, who has the most records in a collection? And I think there's three people: Questlove, the drummer for the Roots, DJ Shadow, Josh, and Jack White. Probably have the biggest
personal
collections I know of. I think there's some guy in Brazil. I don't know if you call it a collection. He just buys it. He's got like 2 or 3 million records, but he's just got them stacked up in a warehouse. I mean, he doesn't have them curated like the guys I just mentioned.
He can't access them. They're just
he couldn't find anything. He just has he's a accumulator more than anything else. But I had maybe up to 10,000 records, and I thought, well,
in your house?
Yes, and I got kicked out.
That's how I grew up. Somewhere there's a photo of me when I'm really little in his office, and it's just me surrounded in piles of records, all floor to ceiling. Like, I'm playing with something, and I think you were there with Mike Buck or something. I can't remember who's in the photo.
The town collector, Mike Buck.
Right. They're like talking in the foreground. I'm in the background. It's just records and posters everywhere. So.
And were you just a big music head, or did you like the actual record item? Like, you like the shape of it, you like the artwork,
variety of music. And I think Texas has always been the best part of the world, literally, for all the varieties of music. It's like a great music melting pot. And I worked at Discount Records from 70 to 76 down at the Drag. And
I just saw a photo of that recently.
Of Discount Records?
Yeah, I have no recollection of that. I didn't know anything about it.
It was gone by the mid 80s, right?
Mid or late 80s, yeah. It was a CBS chain that it morphed into Disc Records, which was Highland Mall, and then it faded. But it was owned by CBS, so it had a huge. They had like 50 stores around the country, so they had a huge buying power, and they got tons of stuff, and it was a real successful.
Was it the only music store on the Drag at the time?
No,
because there was no Tower Records there, and there was no Sound Exchange.
Intersanctum was down the block, around the corner.
That's right.
Wow.
Mr. Joe Bryson, he had, but that was a little bit after Discount.
Yeah, came later.
And I always tell Joe he owes me. I was at Intersanctum as much as I was at Discount. He never paid me.
That's cool.
Yeah, because later in my, probably you guys' memory as well, like when I think of music stores on the Drag, I think of Sound Exchange and Tower Records. They were down there forever. And where Discount used to be was where the Einstein's Arcade was for so long.
Oh, wow.
Which is now I can't actually remember what's in that location now.
It's 2310 Guadalupe, so I don't know what exactly is there, but there's...
You remember the address, yeah.
It's been embedded in my memory.
Yeah,
but,
that's how I am with the old location of this record store. It's 608 North Lamar.
Yeah. There were some old school shops around town. I mean, the record store on Brazos, those two ladies, they ran it into the business. It was a really neat it started in the 50s, but in fact, I have old record store retail books that list them by state, every town, every
Oh, wow.
stores from the 70s and 80s.
That's cool.
What was the name of that reference book that were all like? This is way before things went digital.
Phonologue?
Phonologue.
Yeah, we had one on our counter, and it was every day somebody would get the job of putting the new pages in, and it was a nightmare. But
So Rachel, there's this. It looks like a ginormous Bible or dictionary that was a reference book where you could look up artists. And
Okay.
it's kind for
Like an
lack of a better
atlas?
for lack of a better way of describing it to make it make sense. It was basically Discogs on
about to say
paper.
that, yeah.
pretty much
If someone
on
printed out all of
paper.
Discogs,
Turn the
that's what it
page.
was.
On a hard
Yeah.
copy paper. It was just huge. I mean, it was so hard to keep up with because it was always changing, you know.
How thick was this? Was this
No,
like
it was
many books, many thin books, or
It was massive.
It was like a big display. They send you a display case, and then the thing was like a giant open book.
Like
and you
having a Gutenberg Bible.
Yeah.
Yeah, or
sitting-
medical
you flip through all the
dictionary.
pages to try to find the.
It was what I do remember of it, and it's very, very faint, but what held the phonologue was made out of metal. That's
Yes,
how heavy
yes.
it was.
Yeah, it was
It's like this
real.
massive binder kind of thing.
Oh, to pick it up, it must have weighed 70, 80 pounds. I mean, it was really heavy.
You need to find a photo
Yeah.
of one of those
Well,
things.
do y'all know of anybody that has one still?
I think I do. I
I'm
know a
sure
guy
there's
that-
floating around
Wow,
somewhere.
you should put that
Order
under
it.
a glass case at
Right.
the
I
convention.
mean, but they were so big. I
Exactly.
think this guy, I don't know where he got his, but they were every big shop had one because
That's
that was
cool.
the only
Yeah,
way
they
you
were
could find
everywhere.
out. You know, a customer would ask for something, you'd have to look it up.
Speaking of, you mentioned a minute ago you had a list of all the record stores in Texas or whatever.
Yeah, two books I got years and years ago one from the late 70s, one from the early 80s, and they show the retail stores all over the country. And there's some even from overseas, but it's,
Did you use that to find records?
yeah, I used to track down old stores with old inventory, and you know,
So there's like a, and I mentioned this on the episode when I was on before. Like, I'm not a hardcore record collector. I grew up going to the shows, so I consider myself like a show organizer, and I know a little bit about records, but I'm not. My dad got into this because he was a hardcore record collector
Yeah.
who then made the event, right? So we're not coming at it from the same direction. But what's fascinating is like to listen to him talk about how he used to find rare records and stuff back in the day. It's like somewhere between a private detective and Indiana Jones level investigations. So what you just said is super interesting because what you were trying to do, he didn't get the directory of stores to find open stores. He got the directory of stores to find stores that went out of business, where he could go and find the records that they just stuffed into storage.
or
Yeah.
sometimes even if the store was still in business, they would have old inventory in the back or in the basement or something like that. So you'd look for it that way. My main three were retail, old stores, old jukebox dealers, and old radio stations.
Oh,
Because they
wow.
always had a record. stations.
He's shaking
awesome.
his head.
And we went all over the country.
It's quite obvious that you and Martin Coulter are cut from the same
Yes.
cloth. Seriously, because Martin's the same way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Really, for real.
Totally.
So do you still kind of have that itch to
Oh, yeah,
dig around?
it's-
Okay.
The fun of looking for records is find some you don't know because there's, especially 45s, because for every album, there was probably 5,000 45s made because they were cheaper and everybody could do one. And there's so much variety in 45s.
Yeah, when I was young, he would set out on these trips. Usually we would travel from Austin to West Texas to visit family, and we'd stop at every possible store and flea market you can imagine between here and like Amarillo. But in addition to those trips, when I was in school, he would take trips like my mom and I would sit behind. He would, one of his partners or friends would go on these excursions through the country in the car, going to like old radio stations and finding the old timers that used to have a jukebox repair place or whatever, that they had all the stock or whatever. Actually, that reminds me though, because the other thing that you did in addition to this list of retail locations is you ended up getting those when we had a personal computer. Because I remember we got a personal computer like when I was pretty young, and you got it, I think, what were you doing with the personal computer? You got it for records.
Well, I got it, and I would do mail order lists.
That's right.
I would type up mail order
Oh,
lists.
wow.
Because he was
Send
doing
them
it
out.
before. I remember you doing like hand lettering. He used to do the rub-on letters for your zines and for your mail order catalogs before we had the computer,
Cool.
which looked like it took so much work.
Yes.
But that's
They
like
did.
my earliest memories. More common is I remember the old ancient desktop computer, which at the time was cutting edge, where you were doing all the mail order stuff on the computer.
Yeah, that was a jump up from doing that. You know,
So people would like.
I would used to type it all in with a
Yeah,
typewriter.
I remember that.
Pony Express.
I remember that sound.
Yeah,
And so people would basically like send you a request for your mail order catalog. You would get it all typed up. You'd send it out to all your subscribers.
well, that was pre-internet. That's
right.
everybody. There were multiple people that did mail order catalogs. In fact, I've still got a few of mine laying around. But they're, they were the only way you could connect with people.
But my point was that I remember when we years after we had the computer for a while. I don't know what year it was, but when we had CD-ROMs, this is what I remember. I remember you got these CD-ROMs, these CDs that you put in the computer that were old phone books, right?
Yes, we did. Yeah.
And you were looking for was it the ads? It was the same thing. This is another investigation thing. Like, why would you want an old phone book? And you're trying to find who would place an ad in the phone book 10 years ago or whatever that's now out of business. So it was digitized phone books on CD-ROM, and you pour through it. Again, was it to find the same things like jukeboxes, radio stations?
Yeah, it was another way to find some of those old sources, that had old records,
Yeah.
And then you'd plot
Yeah.
your course through the country to go to as many as possible or whatever?
Yeah, pretty much.
yeah.
We went
Yeah.
all over the place. I'm trying to think how far we went to. Idaho, maybe, and California, Idaho, and
That's what I'm talking about.
Did you all have like a
back to
VW
Virginia.
bus or
That's-
something?
pardon?
Did you have a big vehicle like a bus
Yeah,
or a
I
van?
had a van, and
Okay.
but a lot of times it would just be we wouldn't buy everything. We would just buy the stuff that we
What you could fit in the car.
knew, you
Yeah.
know. And knowledge changes. I'm sure we left stuff that was good, but we didn't know it at the
So
time.
were you going to these let's say I'm fascinated by this process. So you find a place in the CD-ROM or the phone book. Do you call them first to see if probably they're out of business, so you can't call them?
No, you couldn't.
So how do you? Okay, so you find a place, a radio station is no longer there, or a store that used to be in business. But like, how do you just go to that location and start asking people on the street, like who owns this building or whatever?
Yeah, if the lead was strong enough, yeah, we would go.
The lead was strong enough.
hundreds of miles just to see if they were there.
Oh my God.
Well, and sometimes it really paid off well.
I'm sure. God, what an adventure.
I can't imagine the kind of scenarios you must have walked into, out of the middle of nowhere, some ancient
Well,
tumbleweeds blowing around. There's some ancient
Some barn.
radio station,
Right.
ancient radio station that's now a bar.
and I even bought a list from the state when the public records. You could buy a list of all the jukebox vendors in Texas. I still have it. It's and it was like I think you pay them $100, and it was all a printout of every jukebox dealer. And the best thing about it was you could tell by the number of their license how old they were. So you would, you don't want the guys from the 70s, you want the guys from the 50s.
So you could look at the number and realize if it's old school or not.
We found a lot of really, they were happy to have someone,
Take it off their hands.
Yeah,
Yeah.
buy their old stuff.
So Doug, back in the day with the jukebox vendors, they sold the actual machines, right?
So yeah, there were places that sold they had jukebox routes, and they would also sell machines sometimes. Most of the time they were just
The record supplier.
that were records or the equipment, but also they were a route place. So, they had a route of jukeboxes and all over.
So
the
they would
location.
also supply the customers with the records as well.
Yeah, they would bring the records and change them out on jukeboxes, and then put the old inventory back in their barn or warehouse. And
And that's where you come in.
Yeah, I would come and help relieve their problem. But so many of them, they got a fire or a flood, and it just, that's happened
Got
many
ruined.
times.
Tell them about what was the place? I believe it was Shelby that you mentioned. Is these you would have these experiences where, if I remember you telling it correctly, where you'd find some like basically a time capsule.
Yeah, Mr. Shelby in Waco, a real nice guy. He had an old record shop downtown Waco. I think I found him on that list, and I started going around all the places in Waco. And he was retired then. He had a record shop at a record label. Hummingbird Records was his label, and he was in downtown
cool name.
Waco. But the tornado, the really bad one they had in the early 50s, damaged his building badly. So he, I think not long after that, he just went he had a suburban barn and a storage place, and he still had his jukebox, and he owned a bunch of clubs on the north side of Waco, which was like kind of the black section. And so almost all of his records were black records, which
Hell
was
yeah,
probably
yeah.
the best there is.
Yeah, the best
R&B
stuff, yeah.
and blues. It was, I mean, I knocked at his door because I was trying to go because I had the address, and I knocked on the door. This nice old guy, probably about 80, came to the door, and I said, "Well, I'm looking for records." So he said, "Aren't you in the jukebox business?" He says, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, what do you pay?" I said, "Well, at least $1 a piece." And he said, "Come on in." I went into his garage and lost my mind.
Wow.
It was
Yeah.
literally all the really rare rhythm and blues that came out of Chicago and Dallas and all over the U.S. And it was
Wow.
probably the most exciting thing I've ever found. And he was such a nice guy. And
It's the equivalent of like finding the pirate ship full of gold and
Yeah.
at the end of Goonies. You know what I mean?
pretty
Yeah.
much, and he was, he knew that they were worth more, I think, but he just was happy to, and that's why, because he had people call him and offer him like 10 or 20 cents a record, and he said no, because he had paid in the day it was 60 or 70 cents to get a record. So as long as he was making a profit, he was happy with it, and he was really, really nice. And I ended up buying him out after he passed away. His widow said, take him. Please buy the rest, and I did.
But he didn't still have like the store wasn't like padlocked. You were at his house going through his
Yeah,
store
no, the
stuff.
store was long gone when I finally met him. It had been right downtown in
Wasn't
Waco.
there another location that was basically a padlocked store that hadn't been opened in decades that you went into? Because I remember you sending me pictures, and it was like Chernobyl or something, where everyone just left, and there's
Yeah.
still this place here. There's like a cardboard cutout and posters.
Oh,
on them.
that was in Ohio. Yeah, that was the old record shop in Ohio that had been closed since '71.
And
That's
when
insane.
and when did you walk in?
In like '98 or so.
Oh,
Wow.
it was just the same standstill.
Well, these two old brothers, this family, 2 or 3 brothers, they owned the property, and they just got mad or each other or something,
course.
and
They had
they
a
shut
falling
it
out?
down
Yeah.
in 1971, and that was it. They just.
Oh.
And so when we got there, and people had tried to buy it, and they never would. And finally, they got old enough that and they had a lawyer handling their estate, and one of the guys was still alive, and it was a true time capsule because it was you walk
Wow.
in and there was displays for Elvis Viva Las Vegas on the wall.
Oh, my
and,
gosh.
I mean everything dating from that pre-1971, and it was really good for albums, but it was not that great for 45s because they were, it was a small town, I think in western Ohio. It wasn't real big. I can't think of it. Miami, Ohio, maybe, but it was.
That's crazy.
It was because of John Anderson.
John Anderson, the legend.
He was one of the early. He's no longer with us, but he was, I think, a Scottish English record dealer, and he used to crisscross the country looking for them because the English are probably the most hardcore collectors that exist, and especially so. He was really all he wanted was soul music because that's the big thing in Northern soul, and he had been everywhere. And so we started doing stuff together, and I said, "Well, where have you been that you couldn't get there that we might try again?" And he never kept any notes or any kind of diary, so he had to think through it, and he remembered this Ohio store. And he said, "Oh yeah, that guy he wouldn't make a deal with me." And I said, "Well, let's try again." And sure enough, it was time. And the guy, but I've got photos of it. It was an old building in this downtown area, and it was just locked up. And the guy had kept everything. He had every billboard and cash box going back to the 40s. He kept literally everything that ever came in. He just piled it in the basement.
Yeah, that is wild.
It was.
That would
It
be
was
so cool.
It
Yeah.
was. It was really a great.
Somewhere we have pictures of it, right?
I do. I did
it.
a couple stories for the Record Collector magazine.
That's right.
Because I took my camera and took pictures because it was I knew it was never happen again. It was once in a.
If I can find the pictures, I'll send them over.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, I've got them at home. I've got a whole folder of them, and 2 or 3 of the Record Collector magazines did stories about it because it was at the end when there
Of the
really
heyday.
weren't anything left like this. It was
Yeah,
like a
what an
one-of-a-kind.
incredible find. I mean, in 2026, you would be hard pressed to even find anything.
Oh, yeah,
like
that's-
that. I mean, I think those days are long gone.
Yeah, they're
know.
long gone. Everybody's well aware, and I've got photos for the jukebox guy in Waco too.
Yeah, we can send
Mr.
those along
Shelby
too.
stuff. But I mean, yeah, it was fun. And, it was a great era, and it's it's still there, but now it's people's collections and stuff, or estate sales because
Yeah, estate
people pass
sales.
away and their family has to get rid of stuff. But the original sources was the fun time because that's when you could, you were dealing with. Like I said, jukebox, record stores, radio stations that were happy to get rid of it, but those are
Like I said, man, Indiana Jones, but for records.
I know.
sort of, yeah. And go old recording studios, Crazy Huey in Houston and Norman Petty in Clovis and
I think John
Anderson.
Anderson, you mentioned that speaking of, where do people keep their records and all of that, he had a massive house packed to the ceiling of records.
He collected some things, but his not.
He had an inventory. I guess
He
it's
had
different
inventory,
than a collection.
and that's as well as I did. After I stopped collecting, I had a big inventory up there.
A layperson doesn't understand the difference, but the collection is the stuff you don't want to sell, and the
Yes.
inventory is everything else.
Yeah.
But they're all in your house. So you walk into someone's
Well,
house and they say,
your
"Oh, I
dad's
don't
house."
have that many records in my collection." And you walk in and see 3 bedrooms full of records. It's because that's the inventory that's going to be sold. It's not their collection. The
Yeah.
collection is what they keep.
Well, John had a place in Kingsland in England. He had an old barn on the property that was. Do you remember?
Yeah.
It had 500,000 45s
just
in it.
completely packed.
It was just jammed, and because he was buying them up when they were real cheap and shipping them back to England, and yeah, he was. In fact, DJ Shadow he had a big poster collection, and Shadow bought it not that long
really?
ago. Yeah.
This is a good story that I don't think I told last time on the podcast, and I hope DJ Shadow doesn't mind me name dropping him. But when I was in college and Introducing came out, I was like super into that record. I was like, and I'm normally not, much of. Prior to that, I wasn't into a lot of DJ music or electronic music really, but that album really grabbed me, and I was completely fixated on it. And then I was, I went to school here at UT Austin, and so and mom and dad lived just in South Austin, so I'd go back on the weekends. I think I was in a dorm or apartment or whatever, but I visit home on the weekend. And I was at home one weekend talking with mom and dad, and you said to me like, "Hey, do you know this guy called this musician
Josh.
called?" And first you said Mr. Shadow, and I was like, "Mr. Shadow?" I was like, "No," and then I said, "Oh wait, do you mean DJ Shadow?" And you're like, "Yeah, DJ Shadow," and I was like, "Yeah, I'm actually listening to his record all the time. It's fantastic," and you're like, "He was here last weekend," and I was like, "You're wrong. We're talking about a different person. Like, there's no way." It's like, "No, he said his name was DJ Shadow." He's like, he's actually come before. He turns out he'd been to the house before. And he's like, "Yeah, I just thought his name was Josh, but he, told me that he told me his band name or whatever." And it turns out he was true. It was DJ Shadow had been to my parents' house like the weekend before I was there.
That
And
was
actually
in Oak Hill.
a couple times before that had been hanging out with dad. And I was just like, what is happening?
He's a hardcore nice guy,
Super nice guy.
super hardcore archivist, and of especially soul music and stuff. I mean, he really likes that. But I think he has all types. But he's
He comes to the record show, not all the time, but sometimes, but he's always very low key. And if you
He's
don't-
very
Yeah.
low key.
wouldn't be able to even pull him out of a crowd. And
yeah. I mean,
I try not to fanboy over him too much.
And Jack White was there at the same time.
He was there last spring,
At the
right?
same time as Josh.
Was Josh there last spring?
Yeah.
Oh, he was. Yeah, that's right. I saw him.
Yeah, that's when I met him. I kind of by accident had a friend there that was digging around, and he ran up to me. "Hey, I want you to meet Josh." I'm like, "Who? What are you talking about?"
Right.
And at the time, I was haggling with this vendor. Like, I was really into it. I was
Like, "Yo,
trying
back
to.
off, man. I'm trying to close a deal.
Yeah, I know. And he's, "Come on, man." And I'm like, "Hey, let me haggle with this guy real quick, all right?" And we were haggling, and then I told the vendor, "Hey, just hold on to this record. I'll be right back." And then my buddy, I believe his name is Ray, he walked me over to the table, and there he is behind the table. I'm like, "Oh, DJ Shadow." And it takes a lot for me to geek out on anybody, and I really didn't. I just walked up to him because I'm sure he gets it all the time. I'm like, "Hey, Josh, nice to meet you. I'm a big fan of what you do. Always have been. It's really interesting that I hear your music, whether it's your stuff or Uncle or whatever, all over social media now and on television commercials. And I just said, "Hey, nice to meet you," and that was it.
Yeah.
I didn't want to like bother him. I just walked off. That was it.
Yeah,
It
he's
was cool.
super cool.
And Jack
And his
White
stuff was great.
Was super nice.
Jack
at the
White was
show.
super nice too.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was really easy to talk to and was happy to chat with all sorts of people.
Yeah.
There was like this group of crowd following him around.
Oh,
It was,
no.
yeah, really cool.
Everybody
guy.
wanted a picture with him or
Yeah.
autograph this or whatever.
Doug, maybe you experienced this as well. Back in the mid to early, probably the mid to later 90s, there was a crew of Japanese record collectors. And so what they would do they would fly to the West Coast, right, from Japan,
Right.
hop in a van,
Right.
okay, and they would go through everything in Los Angeles or California. Then they would move east, and they would make all these stops along the way. And one of their stops was Austin, Texas.
Yep.
And
Yep.
once a year, they would, I don't even know how I even connected with these guys, but they would come over to my place. And I used to have just, at the time, I was still being serviced by all the record labels. I was getting all these promos and what have you, just tons of hip hop and R&B records. And they would come over to my place and just dig through everything. They would go, and if it wasn't something that I wanted to keep, I'm like, by all means. And they paid really well.
Oh yeah.
And back in the day, that's kind of how I kind of just kept the lights on, was selling these records.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever experienced those guys.
Yeah, I think there is a couple of them coming to this next show.
Yeah, some of them come to. I mean, I don't know if it's the same guys, but there's the what's the store in Tokyo? Disc Union, is that what they're called?
That's one. Yeah, I
They
think
come.
that-
They
I
come
think-
almost every show, at least
Yeah,
like for the
yeah.
recent memory that I can have.
I always think that there's probably more American records in Japan and
I
Europe.
think there are.
than in America.
In America, 'cause
Yeah.
they've just been shipping them. They've been getting.
They've cleaned it out.
Have you ever been? Well, you and I went. I was about to ask you if you had ever been to a record show overseas, but you and I went to a record convention in London.
London, yeah.
And but have you been? Is that the only? How many overseas shows have you been to? That's the only one. I've only been to that one and one in Japan, which I'll talk about. But
Yeah, I don't think we went to the Utrecht. That's
we should probably go. I can't believe I haven't
It's
been.
gigantic. I mean, it's stupid big. I mean, but yeah, it's the biggest in the world.
But so the London show is probably one of the only other
Yeah,
overseas
London
ones.
show wasn't that big, and they have multiple shows around, London, and different parts of England. But
We went to that show one year, and the only other overseas record show I've ever been to is in Japan. I stumbled across a record convention kind of by accident. And what was really interesting about that, and I don't know if this is common or not, it was just that, like I said, it was the only one I stumbled into, but it was in a department store. They had kind of cordoned off a big area of a popular department store, and I don't know, it was probably 60 tables or something like that. Like, it wasn't gigantic, but it was sizable. And what was fascinating to me was that the way it worked was you went to each table and you just took the records that you wanted, and then at the very end when you left, you paid at like a cash register for everyone, which meant that the organizer, but they were different stores and different vendors. So that meant that the organizer of the event had to like collect all the money and then distribute it to the vendors after the fact. And I thought our exhibitors would string me up if I even proposed that.
That's not very efficient at all.
They would. I mean, it is if you're the customer, it's efficient. It's if you're the organizer and the vendors,
that'll
it's
be a nightmare.
terrifying.
Yeah,
to consider.
No, that wouldn't work. Here.
It worked well in Japan.
Yeah, that's very what a weird way to check out,
It's
Interesting.
just a big store if you think about it, right? They just created a big store out of the show. But
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever seen that in the U.S. I don't know.
I don't think I've ever.
No.
The only thing that would be kind of weird like that would be shopping at Bill's Records.
Yeah.
Where nothing's priced and you walk up
Exactly.
there and it depends on the weather whether or not you get a deal or not,
I
right?
know.
Right.
Bill was wacky. I used to
Yeah.
tell you.
Oh, so you knew him.
There's a number of stores like that. They kind of size you up and see,
what they
you
think they can get out of you.
Yeah, exactly. They
yeah.
don't put a price on anything, which is not the way to do it.
Yeah, it's
But,
really interesting.
That doesn't happen too much
Yeah.
anymore.
So you are now the record convention is now 45 years old.
Right.
New posters.
Yep.
There you go. There's the poster right
Wow.
Big 4 or 5.
there. And
Nice.
A 45 cake.
Yeah.
it's so dope. Yeah, that poster is really, really
Billy
cool.
Buck.
Yeah, nice 45 on
Billy
top
Buck.
of the cake.
That's
So,
cool.
approaching your 45th birthday, what are your like reflections and your feelings about the record convention as a whole?
Well, I'm glad it's still going, and really, it's only going because of Nathan. Because
Mm-hmm.
well, the techie kind of stuff, I can't deal with that. So it's
I've changed. When I actually have some photos, I'll try to send them to you in case you want to edit them into the footage of the show. But when I look at the photos from the early '80s, it looks exactly the same. Like you could, if they were just color
Just
pictures.
evergreen, yeah.
The people are even wearing the same outfits now. We've circled back in terms of fashion. I mean, I don't know if there was ever big collars or like, bell bottoms or whatever, but you look at the photos and you're like, it just looks like a bunch of hipsters
Yeah,
looking at
so
records.
sick.
Like it's
Yeah,
just,
yeah.
and the boxes look the same. Obviously some of the music's still the same. So I think that's awesome. Like it hasn't changed. I haven't, like I said in the last show, I've just been trying to keep it going and not break what makes it awesome.
Oh, he's
Right.
done a real good job because he's taken it to another level that I could never have done because of the tech stuff now. But I'm glad. I mean, it seems to be a viable thing for.
And the thing is, and I gave them a shout out last time I was on too, like it's really great that we have the Palmer Event Center in places like that. Like it would have been so much harder to do an event like this without that kind of facility available to like, people in Austin, because it's affordable for the size it is, and like it makes things like this possible.
Yeah, they have a good staff, and they really take good care of everybody. It's just great that they put it in because, like I said, the old Palmer was nice, but I think
It was cool.
Yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you guys have a really good partnership with the room.
And it, like you mentioned a minute ago, like you were speaking to the the fact that how people discover music and kind of when it's organic, it's kind of like a maybe more natural process and maybe that's how it was meant to be. And I think all of that, plus you said something earlier, Mel, that I can't remember, but it was about basically the social network of music, right? The community aspect of the show.
Yes.
The reunion aspect of the show. Like, I know it sounds cheesy to use the term social network because we think of that as like, applications and apps and all this stuff. But like music has always been kind of, it's culture, and culture is kind of a social network, right? And so the record show is sort of it's just nice to have a way to facilitate bringing everyone together. Like, 'cause
Sure.
that's how these networks would typically form in their most authentic,
It's kind of like
non-algorithm driven way. The algorithm is just what you like to hear, and you meet people who are also into
Right.
that stuff. And
it's kind of weird, bizarre old family reunion.
that's
So,
what I always call
It is. It is. I mean, music is the great unifier. Like,
Yeah.
whether you're fans of a band and you're unified by that, or a genre of music, that's
Yeah.
another unifier. But just music in general, regardless of where you're from, what you're into, what side of the aisle that you live in, that that you sit in or stand in, music always seems to be like this unifier. Music festivals is a really good example of that. You have all these folks from different walks of life or socioeconomic, places or whatever. They're all there. They all love the same artists. It's pretty cool.
It's been fun, and it's been a good business for a long time, and I think it's going to continue. Records aren't going away.
Yeah, I don't think so.
You asked last time about if we were going to have bands again, and
yeah.
we are, and I've got the list.
As long as it's not Black Sabbath or something.
Oh yeah.
I wish. That'd be awesome.
I know.
What are you talking about?
Too loud.
Yeah.
But actually,
loud.
and so we'll be publishing that list soon in the Times. But it's going to be good. We're going to have the Rock and Roll Rental stage again. We're going to have.
Oh, nice.
Are you gonna have are you gonna have Thundercloud Evolve?
You know what? They aren't able to do it this time.
Oh,
but
okay, that's okay.
I'm hoping to bring them back. I do love me some Thundercloud.
Yeah, I got to have some T clouds in there.
really?
You know what I mean?
Shout out to Thundercloud. We love you guys. But I was going to ask, it's not the, I said this last time too, it's not, we did have bands back in the day, even underground at Palmer, right? Before the stage
we had
thing.
a few. I forget
Who played? I wanted to
think
say.
Josephus played one time, which was it's like the Texas Black Sabbath. They were way too loud, and
Awesome.
Too loud.
and then they were like
Did David Watson or someone play? There was some sort of rockabilly.
yeah, there was Was it
I can't remember their name.
Ronnie Dawson and
Yes.
rockabilly kind of group?
That was in the basement, right?
Yes.
Or was it on the stage?
I think it was in the basement.
That's old school.
And but the trouble with live music is a lot of times people are trying to listen to a record.
No
Yeah.
vendor wants to be right next to the stage.
Yeah.
Obviously. So
Well-
so it's really, like I mentioned last time, we're only able to do it when we have enough room to space everything out to where no one has to be right next to the stage, and then it works well.
Well, pretty much.
And we don't hire Black Sabbath.
no, you can't. The volume needs to be
Right.
on the down.
More like bluegrass, more folky, like
Yeah.
things
We
like
have some cool
that.
stuff planned. It'll all be kind
That's
of
good.
volume appropriate, but,
Yeah.
but
the
also
long lost locals. They might.
no, I don't. I'm not. I can't. Someone else asked me that. Why doesn't your band play at the record show? And I was like,
Yeah, you don't want it.
I
You- yeah,
can't do it.
much.
I just
It's
can't
too
do
much.
it. It's just not cool.
Yeah.
But it's funny because I knew a guy that was in Japan that had a band and had a bar, and he would play his bar. But like that was, I mean, that's fine. Maybe the difference there, I think, is that you can, but you don't. He didn't book himself every day.
Right.
It wasn't like the only band that played at the bar, right? He booked everyone else, and then he would play once a month too, and that's fine. That's cool. But I just can't. in
Yeah,
good
it would,
conscience
even
book
if
my
you
own
did, it would be hard because you're thinking about what's going on.
Yeah, I can barely
right?
keep my act together without trying to perform.
Sure.
You know, I'd
Yeah.
lose my mind.
It's hard. You do a great job. But
I'm running around like a maniac that
hard.
whole event.
Yeah. It's
I think
great.
I told you this last time, but with that text to search system and all the tech that, I've introduced. It's funny. My memories of you running the show when I was a kid, you had these yellow legal pads and you just had sheet after sheet and multiple legal pads and they all looked the same and they all had your handwriting all over it. And I have no idea how you ran the show that way.
Wow.
Ed Mayberry made the search announcement.
Well, yes, and we talked about that in the last episode too, about how that's how text to search. But just in terms of who was in what table and all that, you just had all these notes and who requested what. It was just I can't imagine doing it that way. I don't know
you
how
couldn't.
you did it. And yet, even though I think that that sounds like I'm a banker, I'm so much more organized than you. No, yeah, I made an application I used the computer to organize it, but unfortunately because I wrote the application myself, it will crash during the show. And guess who has to fix the broken code in the middle of the record show?
Yeah, you.
This guy. So when you see me with my laptop sweating and hammering away on the computer, it's because I'm a terrible programmer and I just broke the show's technology and I'm trying to desperately fix it before the event ends. So in a way, it's kind of just a new version of the same thing. Instead of legal pads that I'm flipping through trying to find, because he'd always be like, "Where's the legal pad?" And my mom would be like, "I don't know. You had it 10 minutes ago." And he's like throwing records around trying to find it. I'm like, "Why is it code breaking?" It's the same vibe.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's genius because with the text, the search feature, your searches are discrete as opposed to like a piece of paper and then someone announcing it.
We're doing announcements.
Right. Nick Astley never going to give you
I
up.
know,
and everyone
yeah. There's a
turns
guy
and
looking
looks.
for Britney Spears or something like that. So for the folks that are listening that aren't familiar with that, like let them know about the text to search system.
So we talked about it briefly in the last episode, but I've the old school way, like Dad was just saying, Ed Mayberry used to announce over the PA. People would put cards for what they were looking for in this little box, and he would just pull the cards out and read the request over the PA. And I guess the people knew that whenever you hear him start reading the announcements, if you had a request, run over there. And if you're a vendor and you hear someone announce something that you had, you could take it out of the box and run it over there and sell it to the person.
It was chaotic.
It never worked very well.
No.
The vendors don't want to leave the table. The people who made the request might not be in the building.
Yeah.
Right.
And you also can't hear what he's saying because it sounds like over the PA, right? So never worked very well.
A lot of problems, yes.
So that's the only thing I can take any kind of credit for, and even that I can't take any credit for because I was thinking about how do I solve that problem. I was like, I've got to make my mark on the show. Surely there's something I can make better, but I don't want to mess it up, and I feel like it's great as it is. And so I started thinking about that problem. And I think I mentioned this last time, but I had all these ideas for other things I could try. And eventually someone, I think maybe Martin Coulter, was like, I didn't suggest text messages, but he was like, I don't want to leave my table to go do the announcement because I had been investigating some other options that would still require that. And I was like, he's totally right. And then I was like, well, it clearly means it has to be on everyone's phone. And so what we allow you to do now is you can text us. It's even on the poster. You can text us right now on the poster, the phone number. You can text what you want, one item per message to that phone number. And before the show, we save them. We just keep them all. And then, actually, that's not true. We keep them all, but what we do is before the vendors leave, right now we're keeping them. But then 2 weeks before the event, we're going to email the vendors not the people's phone numbers, just the requests. We'll say, hey, people are looking for these items, so if you have it, bring it. And then when the show starts, we're gonna turn on the system, and it will text you the number. And then when you reply with this little code, you being the exhibitor gets a little code on their phone that says someone is looking for, You Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog or whatever by Big Mama Thornton, and it'll have like a little code next to it, and they just type the code and it immediately sends the original requester their table number.
Right.
So it's basically a way for people think that what's happening is you're texting me and I'm like running around talking to vendors, or I happen to know who has the record. That's not how it works. You text us, we take the request. We don't share your information, but we broadcast the information, the request to all the vendors, and then they are able to say that they have the item, and then we send you the table number of the people who told us that they have the item.
Yeah, it works. I found a couple records that way.
Yeah, DJ Mel is a big fan.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of it. What a great way to add to your powers to canvas the entire
there's no way
convention.
you can go through everything. I mean, it's impossible.
Yeah.
So you have to. This is a great way to save time.
What about those who A, have never been, and B, have yet to formulate a bigger library for themselves? Do they just kind of follow their nose and walk in, or do you have like international blues?
No, it's not sectioned
like
off.
that.
Every vendor breaks it down in their own way.
Yeah,
but they're mostly organized.
Oh yeah, they are
genres or alphabetized through their.
And how many vendors would you say are in the room?
Couple hundred. I have to look
Wow.
again, but yeah, I think we've got. When we have both rooms, we're pushing usually getting close to 400 tables.
Yeah,
like 6 foot tables,
8 foot.
Yeah,
8 by 2.5.
Oh, so it's smaller. I thought it was like, like they have a 200 square foot little square.
Oh yeah, what's interesting? I think it's interesting. In a lot of places like the Citywide or whatever, Citywide Garage Sale, you pay for a space and you can kind of do whatever you want in the space.
Right.
That's not how we roll. And this is can't take credit for this, but maybe you can speak to it. We don't really let you bring your own setup, right? You basically have to use the tables we provide so that we can create effectively aisles.
Okay.
Right, for people to shop down.
Yeah.
And I guess you did that because trying to have everyone bring their tables and set everything up would just make it look like a giant mess.
No, that was never going to work. But I mean,
because I do get that question a lot when new vendors are like, "Oh, can I bring my tables?" And I say, "Actually, no. Well, you can bring stuff and put it behind your table to display things on, but you can't add tables to my layout because that. And I mean, the cool thing about that is if we didn't do it that way, I couldn't have made the text to search thing because I couldn't tell you anything. You couldn't navigate the show. It looked like chaos, right? It'd be like, I guess I could say space 12, but I mean, right now you can look at the map and understand that these tables are, these islands.
Right. And that benefits the vendor because that's just one less thing for them to lug into the building.
True.
people can find them.
It makes it a bit more manageable, and I think it makes it a bit easier on the shoppers to just browse the records. I mean, you definitely end up seeing a giant row of records, that looks endless going to the horizon and thinking like, I'm never going to get through all that. Yeah. But at the same time, it's a bit of it's the experience. Record stores create that. We're creating a record store experience in the record convention, right? And the reason record stores do this is because it makes it easy to just go through. You don't have to kind of look at some new, like the flea market you went to in France. Everything's kind of some weird jump. Every booth is organized a different way and with different types of shelves, and you just have to kind of reassess every vendor's setup and figure out where to dig in. Yeah. The nice thing about, doing that in our convention is that it just makes it easy. You just go from table to table to table and everything's right there.
Yeah, Rachel, you don't have to do it my way, but the way it always works for me, I usually get overwhelmed, right? Because when you walk in there, you're like, oh my God, like this is insane, right?
Sure.
In a very good way. Yeah. So what I usually do is that I just
like walking into Disneyland.
I know.
Right?
Yeah.
There's a lot.
Yeah. Like if you're a crack addict, you're walking into like a crack lab, you know what I mean? You're just like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. Yeah. But I usually walk in there, case the joint, see who's selling what, couple laps and see, okay, this is right in the very back. There's this guy that specializes in soul music and jazz. And then when you first walk in to your immediate right, there's this table that has just everything you could think of. And it's very well curated. So it's just a matter of just kind of knowing what's there at first, and then kind of picking where to start. Okay. Right.
Yeah.
But like that store you went to in Paris, if you love that, you will love the record convention.
No, I'm planning on going, and I'm very excited.
Yes.
I have a question just on like the back end of it all because I have such a production head. When a person wants to become a vendor at your record convention, do they have to be on a waiting list? Do they submit a library to see if there's no redundancies?
No, usually what it works, we do make you describe what you're going to bring. And I always get every show a few random businesses that are like, I'm selling, basketballs or whatever. I'm like, no, you can't come to the record show. Like, sorry,
Right.
Nothing against basketballs or whatever, but that's just, if we go down that path, it's not a record show anymore.
It has to relate to music.
Yes, it has to. It doesn't have to be vinyl, and it doesn't even have to be recorded music. If it's posters, T-shirts, hats, pins,
Yeah,
and
there's-
we even allow people who make art out of vinyl. Like, you know what? Cool. You want to make record art? I guess
Okay.
that's something that people would think is interesting. In all photography, there's photographers that would come with their photos of the band. So all that is totally legit. We're not super strict about it only being vinyl, obviously, but we do try to like establish, you are selling something related to music and music memorabilia.
Yeah.
We don't usually sell out. It has happened. It's starting to happen like more this is why we expanded into the second hall actually. So about 3 or 4 years ago, we sold out the spring show. I tried to pack in as many vendors as I could, and I put some in the meeting rooms upstairs, which the event center has. But that was when I was like, I should probably try getting both halls, and it's kind of a risk because it costs more money to have that extra hall. And just so everyone knows, if you haven't been, it feels like one big room. It doesn't look like two halls. It's because they have a curtain that they can, a temporary wall they can remove. So when you come in, you'll just see like 80,000 square or whatever, 70,000 square feet of stuff. But for the fall shows, it gets cut about into 2/3, and we get about 40 to 50,000 square feet for the main hall. When we're only in one hall, it is possible that it sells out and someone has to be on a waiting list. We always get a few cancellations though. So I feel like very often does someone want to be an exhibitor and aren't able to come. That very rarely, it has happened, but it's pretty rare. The spring show, now that we have both halls, I don't know. It'll be a while before that sells out. That'll have to keep growing. Ask me again in like 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll sell out both halls.
Are they all kind of like mini Dougs?
You know what? It's fascinating. I feel like I have grown up knowing a lot of collector types. My dad is one.
Who are they?
I have a bunch of uncles that are, collectors of records, and
a lot of Bartons.
So yes, they all have some similar traits, and they're all.
The town collector is Mike Buck.
Yeah, he's obviously Mike Buck is a legendary Austin musician, and also runs Anton's Records, and has been buying records from my dad and trading records, and Dad's been buying records from him since before I was even born. So they go way back.
Wow.
But to answer your question, yeah, there are a lot of similarities between the people that this. But I mean, I will say it's similar characteristics, mostly a passion for music, a passion for musicians and thinking they're interesting. I guess like, the excitement of the hunt for what you want.
It's a huge part.
And the ability to maybe, I mean, we're talking about now the hardcore of the hardcore. If you want to, I'm just saying for everyone who hasn't been to the show before or is just getting into records or isn't into records yet, I'm not saying you have to have these traits to collect records or enjoy them. We're talking about like what makes someone into like a lifetime hardcore record collector. And because I know a higher than average number of those people because of, being raised with my dad and I think, and my mom. And I think that generally speaking, most of these folks, and they also like bargaining, right, and trading and kind of the economics of it. So there's usually in the people who do this professionally, that's what you see. But they could come from any background, like I said, random Scottish guy, dude from West Texas, Japanese folks, like anyone.
Just music hounds.
Yeah, but that's the kind of thing that one of the things that is they share in common, I think.
Wow.
Yeah,
I don't know if it's like innate or that turns them into that.
Yeah,
maybe
totally.
both. Maybe it's on both sides.
Yeah, maybe.
Some folks are better at hiding it than others, right? But I will say this: going to the record convention now for the longest, whatever, you kind of know the personalities behind the tables,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And that's I know. There are vendors there that are there each time, spring, fall.
Yeah.
And you know what they're all about. You know what their personality is like. You know who to haggle with and not haggle with. Just interesting, a lot of characters there in a very good way, right? You have older, older folks selling records. You have couples, husband and wives, running tables.
Yeah.
You have former DJs selling records, and then, young, old, what have you. But when you've been there enough, okay, where to go. What the vendors are like.
Yeah.
Is there a place to grab food just in case you don't want to stop shopping?
There's a concessions area. And actually what's really cool is they just renovated it. And it was there in the fall. If you came to the spring show last year, you would have missed it because it wasn't ready. But they have these cool little concession areas that are like, they used to be that there was these stands and stuff that were in the room with us. Now they've kind of done this recessed store in Palmer Event Center. So you walk in and there's like a little convenience store set into the wall. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, they've up-leveled.
Cool.
Kind of like the snack area.
Nice.
Big time.
Okay.
One of my fondest memories of the record convention is when I had a table at the flea market years or whatever. And and Sunday, that's the last day, and there's kind of like this frenzy, right, towards the end. And, Baby G and we had a table, and we had all these 12-inch records. A lot of them at that point, we just didn't want to bring home. And there was this young DJ that walked up to us, and he was just going through all the records, and I'm like, so, what's going on with you? Like, what's your story? He's like, hey, I'm a young DJ. I'm just starting off. I just want to collect more records and amass like more records to DJ with. And I'm like, cool. And then G and I just looked at each other, and I told the guy, dude, if you go to the snack bar right now and buy us 2 orders of nachos and some drinks, we'll give you these records. We'll give you these 4 crates of records. Yeah.
Wow.
And the kid ran over to the snack bar and grabbed like 2 orders of nachos and some drinks, and he walked out with 4 crates of records.
That's awesome.
Happy customer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm incredibly fond of the exhibitors, generally speaking, new and old veterans and more recent ones, just because, like, I see in them the things that I've always enjoyed about interacting with folks at the show and like the people that I've grown up knowing and stuff. And like you say, they're it's all sorts of people. It's just a huge variety, diverse, group. That's what makes it such an interesting family reunion type thing.
It is.
And when you come, what's interesting is this is a bit challenge for when we change the room size from show to show. I get a little bit of blowback from the exhibitors, not too much, but they like to be in the same location if possible because of what Mel just said, where you come into the show and you're like, okay, before I dig in, I'm going to go to my 3 or 4 people that I visited last time because they said that they might be able to get blah, blah, or whatever. So then you go to the kind of, and if they're in the same spot they were, you can just go right there, find them. So they really like that. And so I try to keep them where they want to be, because once they find a spot they like, they don't want to be moved. The challenge with moving from just changing the size of the rooms is that I have to change the layout. And so they're kind of in the same area, but maybe the shape of the aisle's not the same. And they occasionally are like, not always super happy, but they're always really, generally speaking, pretty
What's the name of that? What's the name of the guy? Like, okay, when you enter the room and then you take a right into the first aisle, right? Mm-hmm. There's the couple right there to your right.
Mm-hmm. They face the concessions.
Yeah.
Geert.
Yeah. There's the couple right there. And then when you go all the way to the end of that aisle to the left, there's that guy from Los Angeles that has all the new wave records.
Doug.
Doug.
Doug Day.
The man.
He's always there.
Yeah.
You would love his table. It's nothing but 80s new wave and just 80s music.
He's the one that always says, wow, we did better this time than ever.
Yeah, he always is setting new records.
Every show he says that. I said, wait a minute.
He has a ton of records.
Yeah,
that's
the thing I always check in. I try to check for the exhibitors and be like, how was the show? What kind of feedback can you give me, or how's the attendance or whatever? And it's always great when they say it's their best show ever. And I always try to make it keep growing, but it's sometimes out of my control. But Doug Day's down that aisle. I think the person you're talking about at the front is Geert. His name.
And his wife, right?
His wife.
Yeah, I think of Dallas.
Great. They have a great table.
Yeah.
Do people bring their own little portable turntables to listen to records?
Yep.
Or is there a place to listen to records? You can't.
You have to bring your own. Sometimes the vendors will have one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a good excuse if you have one
usually,
to bring it.
And you can take it to anybody and they'll happily play it for you. I mean, I do that behind our table sometimes.
And of course, Martin has his own table. Right?
Absolutely.
On colder.
What does he carry?
I mean, he has everything.
Everything.
It's kind of overwhelming.
The big CD thing was.
Recently he's had a lot of CDs.
Yeah,
so.
a lot of CDs.
Oh, interesting.
I bought a couple CDs from him, like at the last show.
Wow.
And
You know
they were
what's
reasonably
interesting?
priced.
I haven't had much luck, and maybe if you're a stereo vendor and you're seeing this video, you'll please come to the show. But I haven't had much luck getting too many stereo equipment people to come, and I think actually there's a big opportunity there because a lot of the people that are new to record collecting that find our show are like, oh, actually. I know people who are buying vinyl that don't even have a turntable yet because they're excited to buy the artifacts.
That is a thing now.
And I think
people
that
just buy it, they collect the records, and they don't have a stereo at all.
And I think that like and those old vintage systems, especially the refurbed ones that people are finding and selling now, like you can get great turntables like here at Waterloo even, but like the amplifiers and some of the integrated radio
Awesome
amplifiers and
stereo.
stuff. Yeah, there's
Yeah.
cool old Kenwoods and
it.
stuff. And there was a place here in town, I can't remember the name of it. Vintage Stereo or something like that. They came to a show and they brought a bunch of stuff, and I think they sold some things, but I think that equipment is a little bit more delicate.
Yeah.
And so there maybe, but I think there's a huge opportunity there. I'm hoping
That's
to
a
get
missed
more of it.
opportunity for someone who specializes in vintage gear.
Yeah.
I'm really surprised that there's no presence like that at the record convention.
I did just talk to a fellow last weekend who has a business that makes these really cool like coffee table speakers. Basically takes an old vintage speaker and renovates it and turns it into a coffee table so you can like use it in your living room, but it's also your sound source, and you can like I can't remember if you can stream directly to it. I think I can't remember how if you have to connect into it with a wire, but they're really cool looking. I'm hoping he shows up. We did have someone come one year, and I'm so sorry I can't remember their name. I'd give them a shout out. They made these really cool, I think they're here in town. They make these really cool vintage consoles. You know those all-in-one consoles?
Yeah.
I've heard.
Open the lid and there's a
that
record
somewhere.
player and speakers and maybe a shelf for some records.
Right.
They were either building or refurbing those, refinishing them, and they were amazing. They were pricey, but they were very cool. But again, you can only bring like 3 or 4 of those. You can't probably
Sure.
get a giant moving truck full of 100 of them to bring, and but I think just making people aware of that stuff, even if you come and it's a marketing effort, I think there's an opportunity for like hi-fi systems and these sort of vintage gear.
Yeah,
So,
that's a great idea.
would you guys be opposed to, like, if MoFi decided to set up a table there? Are you guys cool with that? Mobile Fidelity.
Why wouldn't we be?
I mean, are you guys? Would it be cool? I mean, because everyone's selling used stuff. Like if there
new
was-
records.
Yeah, new records.
Yeah.
Like okay.
Yeah, we have a bunch of several.
Yeah.
I mean, if we have labels coming who are going to sell, like Spaceflight's going to be there. They'll
Okay,
have
well
some
there you
records.
go. Like, yeah, maybe that was a dumb question.
No,
Okay.
I mean, I don't think so. Like, it's
No question.
Actually, I believe it is also an opportunity that is only recently taken advantage of. Like historically, I think we still have more collectors and professional like record collectors and maybe out of state stores, but like especially like for a while the local stores or the stores in the immediate area would be like, oh, I'm still going to get a boost from the record show happening, so I don't need to move my inventory to the show. I'll just be open.
It's really difficult to be a store and try to move a chunk of their store to the show. So that's understandable.
That's right. And I think like Waterloo does it now, which is a relatively new thing. Waterloo's only been coming and setting up for a few years now, but it's because what we were seeing is there's an appetite for newer releases that stores have more commonly than like the independent kind of sellers. And there was several places that were doing great business. You'd see a line of people waiting to check out from their tables because they had brand new releases and stuff. And I think that's kind of shows the changing demographics of the show, and also the fact that the industry's changing and all these artists like John Legend, everyone are making these like Harry Styles making these rare releases.
Right.
And so I think that's a big opportunity that we're starting to see stores take advantage of. The stores, even the local stores, are starting to set up more and more. But to your point, I think there's another opportunity, which is the labels themselves can come and sell stuff.
Right.
I actually tried to get, speaking of, Jack White and Third Man Records, I was hoping to get the Third Man, they have a mobile record pop-up van. I really want to get that.
That would have been cool.
I don't think I think I waited too long to reach out to them, but maybe in a future show. Because I think that sort of stuff would be great. Like,
I think it would be too. I mean, Sub Pop would be a really good addition to the record convention because I don't know, they just have a lot of merch that I've seen. Like I've been to was that at the airport? I saw like the Seattle airport. They have a record store in there, and they just have lots of merch, and their back catalog is huge. It would be kind of cool to
be awesome.
I don't know if it would be worth it for them, but just to have something like that at the
so
record convention
cool.
would be really cool.
I think it would be great. I mean, I think it would be great. Also, I mean, I didn't know that Sub Pop had a store already, but like any of those labels that don't have a storefront, I think events like ours are a great opportunity for them to like connect with their community, and also for you to interact directly with a label in a way that you maybe rarely get to. Like music labels are awesome. Usually when we hear about like record labels in like other contexts, maybe it's about like they sign a new artist on the plus side, or maybe there's some sort of legal thing in the news about a label battling with another label or an artist over some stuff, but they're so critical. Like they're integral to all of this happening. And so I would love for them to get, be able to just show up and be appreciated and in the spotlight and showcase all the things they're bringing to the scene.
Face to face is very important.
Yeah.
Let's hold this thought. I'm going to run to the restroom before I go in my pants. Okay, so it'll be a few minutes. All right, I'll be right back. All right, time for show and tell. Okay, so who wants to start off with their goodies?
Let's go with guests.
Yeah,
Want me to show
let's start with Nate.
Well, I already showed, I think, briefly the new record show poster. Like I said, drawn by Billy Buck here in Austin, one of our favorite poster artists. But I think it's fun to look at, and I was just had mentioned to DJ Honeycomb that all the different posters you can kind of see actually if you compare.
So which one, like the one that you have in your hand right now?
This
from
is
what
87.
Year? Wow.
And here's 81. What I think is fascinating, I went to UT for design, so I'm kind of a design nerd. What's fascinating is these first two posters, right? This one, the first show, totally mostly hand drawn, but there's no computer involved, right? Like I think maybe he traced some letters, but I think if you look at like the lettering, it's like hand rendered. So the A's like aren't identical, and like it's all hand drawn. That's also true in 82. I think 82 might use transfer lettering where you have to rub it on.
Yeah.
Because the typeface is really clean and it's not hand rendered anymore.
1982. Wow.
So I think there's some transfer stuff going on here. I'd have to ask Dale Wilkins. But you can still see that big chunks of it are hand drawn, and then there's some stuff like probably. But then you can see when like the Macintosh or in personal computing revolutionized like home publishing because they start to look more computer. All the lines are sharper, right?
And that's from 1988.
This is 88. So 88 and 87 is when it starts to look a bit like someone made it on a computer a little bit, like straighter lines, right? More complex geometry. Here's 86. This is always people like this one.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's nice.
Wow.
Very 80s with the little reading of lines and stuff.
Nice.
And then so many. For a long time they had that Victrola design. Oh yeah, this one's funny because this is from 89, the very end. The Texas tornado of records.
Oh yeah. Wow.
Oh yeah. I like that one.
And then I'm trying to find this is the most 80s one is actually from the 90s.
Of course.
We weren't really on trend. We were kind of behind.
That's spring 1991.
It's a very 80s
pink.
color palette, right? It almost screams like OP shorts and Maui and Sons. And
I like the colors though.
Yeah, me too. Miami
91.
Vice.
Yeah.
Very Miami Vice.
There was a poster for a show and we tried to morph into the guitars as well as the records. Remember?
Oh my gosh.
Was that? Didn't you guys kind of do that like in the early 90s?
Yeah, we did it one time. It didn't.
Too many blazing guitars being tested on amps. Although I did buy my very first Stratocaster at that show.
Yes, you did.
And I still have it. I just
bought it for you.
You did, thank you. I just restored it. Yeah, you can see anyway. It gets very like.
Oh la la.
Yeah, let everyone watching. You want to show them again?
Oh yeah. Oh look, there's a Strat on here.
Oh, cool.
That's it.
I
Guitar
can't take
show.
credit. I didn't.
Spring 94. Nice.
Is that the one where we had the guitars?
Yep, that was it.
Yeah, and guitar show, amazing.
Wow.
It was a very small portion of it. Was mostly records, but there was a
That's
small
pretty special.
chunk of guitars.
It's even a Fiesta Red Strat, which is my favorite.
Nice.
The I think that's it. Was there one other thing in here that was interesting? That's probably everything.
It's been all sorts of designs over the years.
Yeah. But we love this one.
Yes.
Yeah, it's
And I love that this
great.
is mostly hand rendered too. It's just I'm
Yeah.
very
Yeah, that,
analog.
that
Billy's
looks
good.
that
I
looks
know.
great. It's a really good looking poster.
Yay! Thanks, Billy
It
Buck.
pops.
I would probably store all those things in a very dark, moisture-free
Right.
room. Those
I
are
won't tell you where I found them to bring them today. You'd be.
Uh-oh.
They're actually somewhat
Garage.
like
protected,
by the sink or something like that.
right.
Okay, so related. And I was showing everyone this before we start recording. I have a flyer from the Fall 91 show when I was a kid.
Oh my
Right.
gosh.
There you go. So you see it.
Yeah.
And I guess I saw someone there noteworthy, maybe a musician. I don't know who the hell it is because I totally forgot who signed this. And we tried to figure out the signature or the autograph, but it says on the back, to Mel, all the best. And I have no idea
gotta
who
see
signed
this.
it. Yeah.
I try to figure it out. I cannot.
Mystery.
Not for the life of me. I don't know.
I almost thought it was Linda Ronstadt, but I'm like, no. It just
No, I
looks like
think Linda's
Linda.
ever been to the show. I mean,
Lisa, I don't know.
Doug Somm and
Doug Somm.
I wish it was Doug Somm.
yeah,
Yeah, there's no telling.
I got nothing.
Yeah.
That's
Right.
cool though.
God, who is that? Like
know.
I when I went into my office to find this, and when I found it, I was like, "What the hell? Like, who is that?" Not yeah. Anyways,
I wish we could help, but
no problem. But I believe this could possibly be the very first show that I went to. Fall '91 show.
yeah, here it is. Here's the big version of the poster.
Do you have the big? You have the big version? Oh, there you go.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Purple.
I like the colors of that one.
Yeah.
Nice.
You have a two-tone, right?
Yeah, we
I
had-
just and I
Yeah.
just have a one color,
Yep.
black and orange. There you go for all the
Yeah,
viewers
that
out
was
there.
That was the 10th anniversary.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Wow.
Nice.
I just noticed that. 35 years later.
Wow.
Okay.
Time flies.
All right, Rachel, let us know. Show us what you have.
Oh yeah, you bought some stuff when you were
Yeah.
Yeah.
overseas?
So when I was at the flea market, swap meet, whatever you want to call it, in Paris. Okay. So this was the one I was just like, what the hell? Just based off the cover, I'm like, I got to listen to this. It sounds like a Rocket from Herbie Hancock a little bit, but it says, I'm young, I'm beautiful and natural.
Yeah, show the cameras.
I'm like, what's
So
going on
what
with
is-
this guy?
So it's called, what is it called? General
I've never heard of this.
Yasa?
Yeah,
Nyasa?
Nyasa.
And what's the title of the record?
I'm young, I'm beautiful. It's just a track. And,
I'm young, beautiful,
That's
and natural.
fantastic looking.
and so if you go to their handle, you'll see my husband and I just like, what is this? And we're kind of like dancing, and then we do the worm with our hands, and then we bought it.
Yeah,
So,
that's a very cool record.
10 euros, which is what, $12, $13.
Nice.
Is that a
Recent?
European group or a?
I'll have to do more research. I've never, I mean, even look at the,
Yeah, I'll do it. Yeah, when I get home, I'll do a Discogs dive. Check it out.
so this is a tribute session for funk music. It's a lot of groups that we all know that have redone
Yeah.
a song.
So is that that's a comp, right?
It's a comp,
What label is
30
it on?
euros, which is,
Yeah.
more pricey.
Mm-hmm.
But we put this on the record player and everybody was getting down. It just wasn't filmed. And this was amazing.
Let's check it out. Let's see what label they're on. Okay.
And then I'm a big soundtrack person. I have no idea what this sounds like, but I have to get it because it's one of the most memorable movies I grew up with is White Knights.
Remember what?
Oh my gosh, I forgot about that.
Yeah,
film.
that's a kind of a Cold War
Yeah.
when the USSR was a thing.
It's a little scory. Also,
Yeah,
there's
Lionel
like,
Richie's on it, right?
yeah. And someone owned this because they put all the BPMs on it.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Pretty cool.
So this 10 euro, but yeah, it's probably very soundtracky.
If you're
But
not
yeah.
so OCD and like a crazy record collector, it's kind of cool to have
all the
have
BPMs.
records that have notes like that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Can
I love
look that real
notes.
quick? Yeah, like let's
The
see
more
what they.
worn and experienced, or more journeys a record's gone through, the more I like it.
Makes it even more mysterious.
Sometimes a real museum kept stuff. I'm like, cool, But if I see someone's notes or like a love note, you remember those?
Right.
I don't know if you've ever found notes in like records or.
Oh yeah, I found some bizarre things. And
Dear
I
pen
found
pal.
someone's,
He's found some. I just realized there's like a whole episode around the strange things he's discovered that we didn't even get
people
into.
did do that.
Someone's ninth grade report card from 1963,
Yeah.
and stuck inside a Yardbirds album. And
Didn't you find a drawing of Bob Dylan by Clifford Antone?
yes, it was on the inner sleeve of a Bob
See?
Dylan record. It was just a white sleeve, and Clifford was a pretty good artist, and he did the
there's
design.
there's
on
so
it.
many hiding spots. You can put any kind of
Right.
note in a record.
Yeah.
So,
And I not often, but people would hide money in them sometimes.
that's
which is-
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is
I
crazy.
remember those
but
days, yeah.
they did. But the Clifford thing is which is a good time for me to give a shout out to the Whitliff in San Marcos
The
because
Whitliff Museum.
they've got that and a bunch of. In fact, they're having a new Sean Colvin display go up. And it's real.
Oh, cool.
It's really worth
Oh,
going
awesome.
to see their place. It's really a great music archive museum.
So you gave them the Clifford Antone drawing.
Yeah, they took it. They've got it over there. And
Didn't you
Nice.
also find somehow like a record contract from, was it
oh yeah, it was
not Mance Lipscomb, but Lightning Hopkins?
Harry Schultz and Lightning Hopkins. Yeah,
And Lightning Hopkins?
from the Gold Star Studios in Houston. Yeah,
the original contract of them
Yeah.
signing the record deal
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
Wow.
it was for.
Where did that, was that just in a box of records?
It was
or-
from the old studios in Houston. It was a Huey Mo, and it was Gold Star, and all those different studios, and the place had accumulated everything. International artists, the 13th floor elevators.
Because that also wound up in the museum, right?
Yeah, that's at the museum. All that stuff's over there.
That's-
They use it. They have a rotating displays. They put up one, and like Sean Colvin's the one right now, and then they're going to do more. As Hector's pretty much the main guy, but I think there's another guy over him. But they do a great job.
Wow.
That's
awesome.
amazing.
Yeah, it's worth the trip.
Yeah, I stand corrected. Lionel Richie's not on this soundtrack, but I think the banger was the slow jam. The big hit was the Phil Collins duet song.
I can't remember that movie. I remember the title. I don't remember what it's all about.
I think it's a Cold War era movie. Like it's just kind of about maybe defecting from the USSR to the United States or something like that.
Yeah.
I've never watched the movie.
Because I remember the other actor there.
Yeah. Lou Reed, Shaka Khan, but slow.
Yeah, Roberta Flack's on there too. I
Nile
noticed.
Rodgers.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah,
Roberta Flack, Robert Plant, David. Yeah, I got to go home and listen to this. Phil Collins and Marilyn Martin. And then you have David Foster, who's on
It's
all
cool.
that
That's
stuff.
the
Yeah.
thing about different countries with different versions of a record, or
That's right.
versions that don't come out in other countries, and
know.
that's always been the thing. Like
Yeah.
different. And the pressings are, in general, the European pressings and the Japanese pressings are better than and Canadian are better than the U.S.
Oh, interesting.
Not always, but
yeah.
Huh.
often they do better. Back in the day, I mean, now they may be all up to speed. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The quality was better back when, but
Can I
it's
see
always been interesting.
Can I see the flyer for the current the show coming up in May? Let me check that out. real
Any
quick.
tips or information about the record convention? $5 to get in? Is that cash only?
$5 general admission and get you in and out all 3 days. Well, general admission gets you in Saturday and Sunday only, but you can come and go as much as you want Saturday and Sunday for $5. If you want to come Friday and then early Saturday and Sunday, you can do the early shopper admission, which is $30.
Yeah, that's the look.
And what is that window? Is that like 7 a.m. to 10 a.m.?
I
What
believe
is
it's
that?
Friday. It's 10 to 5 for early shoppers, and then early shoppers can get in at 8 on Saturday and 9 on Sunday.
Okay.
General admission is only Saturday, Sunday. It's 10 to 6 Saturday and 10 to 5 Sunday
For
Okay.
$5.
for $5.
So $5,
Okay.
so you could bring cash or use a card.
Yeah,
Okay.
you can buy tickets online at austinrecords.com right now. You can also just show up and buy it at the box office. Yeah, and then the vendors, generally speaking, these days most vendors take cards. They usually have a payment thing they can swipe, but We have ATMs in the building too, and you
Okay.
can use those to
Yeah.
get cash out if you want to.
Do some vendors give a better price if it's cash? Just if there's any kind of like
I don't.
Yeah,
maybe
I think so.
tricks of the
You know,
trade
'cause,
type of
you know,
thing?
Yeah,
Okay.
I think there's room to haggle a little bit.
Oh,
It
yeah.
just depends on like, the person's mood or
Yeah.
how you kind of come across.
I will say
or
this
depending what it
Sunday,
is.
yeah, and Sunday starting around 1:00 ish, people start to get much more soft on their
Motivated.
prices, motivated to
Sure.
sell. So usually a lot of great deals happen on Sunday.
Yeah.
Okay.
So don't miss out. You can come Saturday, and if you don't find what you're looking for at the price you want, come back Sunday and try again.
Yeah, Sunday and probably get 4 crates of records for some nachos.
That's right.
And sometimes people just give stuff
Yeah,
away
you might even just end
Yeah.
up with a box of records for even less
for
than
free.
nachos.
Yeah.
So if
it
you plan to
happens.
buy a lot, should you bring your own milk crate? Like, how does that? Do you
Yeah.
sell milk crates?
We do not, but you can you can bring in if you can bring in a bag. We usually allow people to carry whatever you can carry is usually fine. We have to be careful about hand trucks and dollies and stuff in the space itself because we don't want people's ankles to get smashed and stuff.
Yeah.
So we frown on people like bringing in a wagon full of stuff or their own cart. But if you can carry it in a bag, usually it's no problem at all, and it's you might have to make multiple trips if you get really ambitious. But in that case, if that does happen, we in the rare event that occasionally someone will show up and just buy everything at a table. Usually this happens on Sunday. Someone will be like, I sold my whole table. And so in those cases, we might help people load out ourselves
Okay.
with the bigger carts.
That's
And
nice.
as long as we do it, it's not as bad. We're just mostly they're worried about people getting bonked in the legs by
Right.
other people's carts, and also those glass doors at the front.
They
Those
don't.
can easily get shattered.
No,
by someone
100%.
trying
Yeah.
to push their way through.
I never
with-
thought of it that way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's happened.
Okay.
All right, Nate. So, let the listeners know where they can find more information on the record conventions, social media stuff, website, and what have you.
If you visit austinrecords.com, you can buy our tickets, find links to our social media accounts. I think we're on Instagram under the Austin Record Convention and on Facebook as well. But May 30th and 31st are the general admission days. Friday the 29th is the early shopper day. So, if you haven't come check it out. 45th anniversary. Hopefully we'll be here for 50 too.
Hopefully.
Yeah, long live the Austin Record Convention. Ladies and gentlemen, the Austin Record Convention happening the 29th through the 31st, all right? The 45th anniversary of the Austin Record Convention happening at the Palmer Event Center. $5 to get in. Bring a bag. Be prepared to fill it. Doug, Nate, thank you so much for being
Thanks, guys.
generous with your time. Thank you
for
so
having
much.
us.
Thank you too for having us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for joining us on the Sound of Firsts.